Is Bukayo Saka really a leader for Arsenal? Or did he simply become one because Arsenal needed someone to carry the weight of expectation? After painful defeats and moments when Saka himself was questioned, very few people would have imagined that he would one day become an icon of the Emirates. So, what transformed a player who once carried unbearable pressure into the man Arsenal trust more than almost anyone else? Start at the beginning, and Bukayo Saka is about as Arsenal as it gets. Ealing-born Nigerian family into the HALE Academy at 7 years old. One of those rare, precious grown-at-home stories that this football club, more than most, absolutely treasures. He wasn't the loudest kid in the building. By every account, he was quiet, studious, coachable, the sort of boy who did his homework and still found time to be the best player on the pitch. Under Unai Emery, he got his first taste of first-team football. Under Mikel Arteta, he became something closer to essential. But Saka's real introduction to the country, the moment that turned him from promising Arsenal winger into a name every football fan in England knew, wasn't a goal. It was a miss. Wembley, July 2021, Euro 2020 final. 19 years old, thrown into a penalty shootout against Italy with the whole country's hope sitting on his shoulders. Gianluigi Donnarumma saved it. England lost. And within minutes, Saka, along with Marcus Rashford and Jadon Sancho, was on the receiving end of a torrent of racist abuse online. Think about that for a second. 19 years old, the worst moment of your career so far, and the response from a slice of your own country is to send you racial slurs. Saka didn't hide from it. He came out and spoke, plainly, without flinching, and did the only thing he knew how to do, which was play. He was back scoring for England within weeks. That response, more than the penalty miss itself, is the moment English football insiders still point back to as the first proof of the steel underneath that soft-spoken exterior. If a missed penalty can shape the character of a 19-year-old that fast, what happens when an entire football club starts putting its future on his shoulders? For years, the accepted wisdom around Saka was simple. Protect him. He was the jewel in the academy crown, and the last thing anyone wanted was to pile pressure onto a player still finding his feet. That changed on the 28th of October 2023, Sheffield United away. Martin Odegaard rested on the bench. Arteta hands the armband, for the very first time in Saka's career, to the boy from HALE. Arsenal go and put 5 past the blades without reply. And Saka, afterwards, could barely find the words. He talked about coming through the academy, about what it meant to lead the team out, about a feeling he genuinely struggled to describe. From that day, Saka became Arteta's automatic choice whenever Odegaard was missing, and with Odegaard's injury record what it's been these past couple of seasons. That's happened more often than anyone at the club would like. He's one of 5 members of Arsenal's official leadership group. Declan Rice, no shrinking violet himself, has been vocal in public about the natural authority Saka carries in that dressing room. And here's the thing that actually matters. This wasn't a testimonial armband, handed over because of long service or seniority. Saka was given it in his early 20s, years before English football's traditional idea of what a leader is supposed to look like. But here's a truth anyone who's actually watched English football for long enough understands. Wearing the armband on an ordinary Tuesday night against Sheffield United is one thing. Standing up on the biggest night in the club's history is an entirely different test. The 30th of May 2026, Arsenal arrive in Budapest for the biggest game most of that squad will ever play, a Champions League final against the reigning European champions, PSG, at the Puskás Arena. There's context worth sitting with here. 11 days earlier, Arsenal had finally ended a 22-year wait and been crowned champions of England. The Premier League drought was over. Now they were one win away from something even bigger, the trophy this club, with more European Cup appearances than any side in the competition's history, without ever lifting it, had never once got its hands on. For an hour, it looked like this might genuinely be the night. Kai Havertz scored inside 6 minutes, a smart finish after Marquinhos' clearance fell straight into his path. And Arsenal did what they'd done all season on the road to this final. they shut the game down. Disciplined, compact, ruthless in defense. PSG, for the most part, were kept at arm's length. Then, in the 65th minute, everything shifted. Christian Mosquera caught Kavica Kvaratskhelia inside the box. The referee pointed straight to the spot, and Ousmane Dembele, a man who'd go on to win that year's Ballon d'Or, sent David Raya the wrong way. 1-1, game on, extra time came and went with no further breakthrough. Saka, still managing the effects of the fixture pileup and the physical toll of a brutal season, was withdrawn before the shootout began. His part in the night already played out. And then came the cruelest way football knows how to end an evening: penalties. Ebereki Eze dragged his effort wide. It went to sudden death. Gabriel Magalhaes, arguably Arsenal's best player across the full 120 minutes, put his kick over the bar. PSG 4, Arsenal 3, 22 years since a league title, a first Champions League final appearance in 20 years since losing to Barcelona back in 2006, and still no European crown. This is exactly where the old doubts about Saka came roaring back. He hadn't missed a penalty, he hadn't made some costly error, but he also hadn't conjured the moment that could have settled it. And he'd been the one taken off before the drama even reached its climax. On Arsenal forums up and down the country, the same old question resurfaced. Is Bukayo Saka actually the kind of player who can drag a team through the biggest nights of all? Or is he brilliant only when the stakes are merely high rather than unbearable? Roughly 7 weeks after that heartbreak in Budapest, Saka was on a plane to North America with England for the 2026 World Cup. Barely any time to process it. No hiding place either. Straight back into a tournament with the whole country watching. England's run ended in the semi-final, beaten 1-2 by Argentina. The dream of a first World Cup since 1966, dying agonizingly close to the finish line yet again. But then came the third-place playoff against France, a fixture that, on paper, had every excuse to be a lifeless, going through the motions afterthought for two teams nursing separate heartbreaks. Instead, Saka produced arguably the finest 90 minutes of his career. England were 4-0 up at halftime. Declan Rice from distance, Ezri Konsa's header, and two from Saka either side of the interval. France, as they so often do, refused to lie down. Mbappe pulled two back in the second half to overtake Messi as the World Cup's all-time leading scorer. And suddenly, a canter turned into a genuine contest. Then in the 87th minute, Jed Spence was hauled down in the box. Saka stepped up, sent the keeper the wrong way, and completed his hat-trick from the penalty spot. His second England hat-trick, and only the fourth in the country's history at a World Cup. Dembele pulled one back deep into stoppage time to make it nervy right to the very end, before substitute Jude Bellingham settled the 10-goal thriller with the final kick of the match. The most goals scored in a World Cup game since Hungary put 10 past El Salvador back in 1982. England went home with bronze, their best World Cup finish since they actually won the thing 59 years earlier. That, right there, is the loudest possible answer to the question this whole video opened with. A player short on genuine belief lets Budapest linger, lets it follow him into the next assignment, drags his form down with it. Saka did the exact opposite. He turned what should have been a forgettable, dead rubber fixture into one of the great individual World Cup performances by an England player, and gave an entire nation something to actually be proud of. After a tournament that otherwise ended in yet more nearly meant heartbreak, what separates a genuine leader from everybody else was never about never losing. That doesn't exist at the top of this sport. Not for Messi, not for Ronaldo, not for anyone who's ever lifted a major trophy. It's about how fast you get back up and what you do with the very next chance you're given. On that measure, 7 weeks between Budapest and Miami tells you everything you need to know about Bukayo Saka. Despite the periodic doubts that resurface every time a big occasion doesn't go Arsenal's way, the club's hierarchy has never wavered. Saka's current deal runs all the way to the summer of 2030, a long-term commitment that's genuinely rare in a game this volatile, and one that made him the highest-paid player in the entire squad, inside the dressing room, Senior figures like Declan Rice, a proper leader in his own right, having worn the armband himself at West Ham, have been consistently generous in their praise of Saka's natural pull on the group, even without the captaincy officially attached to his name. That points to something bigger about how English football is starting to think about leadership. The armband doesn't have to sit on the arm of the man who wears it. Leadership increasingly is about who the whole dressing room trusts to turn up when it matters most, win, lose, or draw the week before. For Saka, turning up when it matters was never going to mean never stumbling in Budapest. It meant that 7 weeks later, he was ready to carry that responsibility again, and didn't shy away from it for a second. Strip away the emotion for a moment and look purely at the data, because the numbers back up the eye test. Across the 2025-26 Premier League season, Saka played 31 matches, 25 of them starts, totaling 222 minutes on the pitch, 7 goals, one of them from the penalty spot, plus 5 assists. His pass completion sat at 77.2%, built off 590 successful passes from 764 attempted. His combined expected goals and assists output ran at 0.57 per 90 minutes, with an expected assists figure of roughly 6.96 across the league campaign. In the Champions League that same season, 11 appearances brought 3 goals and 2 assists, with his passing accuracy climbing to 83% in Europe, evidence, if you needed it, that the bigger the occasion, the sharper his end product tends to get. Analysts at Opta have pointed to something specific in those numbers. Saka's expected assists consistently outstrip his actual assist tally, a clear sign that opposition fullbacks are now setting up their entire defensive shape purely around shutting him down. He's not just a source of goal contributions anymore. He's a genuine tactical problem that Premier League right-backs are being coached to solve on a weekly basis. And even when the raw scoring numbers cool off slightly compared to his most explosive seasons, the pundits are unanimous that he remains the player Arsenal's entire attacking structure is built around. So, does Bukayo Saka actually deserve to be Arsenal's leader? If your definition of a leader is someone who's never failed on the biggest night of all, then frankly, nobody in the history of this sport clears that bar. Even the greatest players who ever lived have gone down on their knees on a penalty spot somewhere. Here's why Saka earns the title regardless. He came through HALE and he understands this club's identity in a way that can't be taught. He's helped carry Arsenal through some genuinely difficult rebuilding years while still a teenager. His output, goals and assists combined across the Premier League and Europe, has been remarkably consistent for a player his age. He's shown repeatedly that he can absorb genuine adversity, vicious public criticism included, and come out the other side sharper, not smaller. And he's been one of the defining figures of Mikel Arteta's entire rebuild, trusted and respected in equal measure by teammates and coaching staff alike. But if your definition of a leader is someone who's willing to shoulder responsibility again, even knowing full well he might fail, someone who can turn the pain of Budapest into a hat trick 7 weeks later, then honestly there's no argument left to be had. Bukayo Saka isn't Arsenal's leader because he's never fallen down. He's Arsenal's leader because he's learned to get back up faster than almost anybody else in the game. But what do you think? Do you agree that Bukayo Saka is absolutely ready to take the official captaincy when Martin Odegaard eventually steps down? Or do you think he still needs to prove himself in one more European final? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments. We'll be replying to the best ones in next week's documentary. And make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss a story.